Here we go again, y'all. Trump has done a complete flip-flop on his brief stint with non-interventionism in Syria. Look at this. President Donald Trump told lawmakers that he wholeheartedly agrees with calls to keep a military presence in Syria just 2 months after making a surprise declaration to pull all troops out of the war-torn Middle Eastern country. NBC News reported that Trump responded to a February 22nd letter from a bipartisan group of Congress members calling on him to keep U.S. troops in Syria. Quote, "We support a small American stabilizing force in Syria," the group wrote, saying that such a force should include a small contingent of American troops and ground forces from our European allies that is essential to ensure stability and prevent the return of ISIS. In the White House response obtained by NBC News, the president wrote that, quote, "Like you, we seek to ensure that all of the gains made in Syria are not lost, that ISIS never returns, that Iran is not emboldened, and that we consolidate our gains and ensure the best outcome in Geneva for American interests." Writing directly on the letter and adding his signature, Trump added, quote, "I 100% agree. I agree 100%. All is being done." Told you. Told you. Abby Martin also did a great segment on this where she goes into detail about how Trump is not a non-interventionist. He used the non-interventionist rhetoric about half the time on the campaign trail. But in terms of his record, he's just not a non-interventionist. He's escalated most places. And now here, this is a total, complete reversal. And by the way, how pathetic are the politicians who signed that letter? I don't know whether it was in Congress or the Senate, but their job is to hold the executive branch accountable. And it should be to tell them, hey, you're not allowed to just go to Syria. You need to get a declaration of war, and you have to go through Congress. And they didn't go through Congress. They didn't go through Congress. So this is an illegal war. And they're writing a letter saying, you better keep the troops in there unconstitutionally. And he's like, yeah, totally agree. Keep the troops in there unconstitutionally. This is embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing for Congress and perhaps even more embarrassing for Trump because you just said it not that long ago. Oh, we're getting troops out of Syria. Now, all of it was a lie. He said, we're going to get the troops out of Syria. Then he came out a week later and said, I didn't say quickly. And then now he's saying, yeah, I 100% agree with keeping our troops there. I was just using this as a campaigning issue. But even in Afghanistan, because he said the same thing, oh, we're going to get out of Afghanistan. There are 14,000 U.S. troops in Afghanistan. What he really is doing is reducing it to 7,000. I got news for you. If China had 14,000 troops in Texas and they took it out and kept 7,000 there, we wouldn't say that's ending a war. Because it's not ending a war. You know who else did this shit? Barack Obama. You do the yo-yo of the troop levels and pretend like you're non-interventionist. No, you're still keeping troops there. You're still doing war. You're still bombing 8 different countries. You're trying to do regime change in Venezuela and Iran as well. So, with John Bolton behind the scenes and Mike Pompeo behind the scenes, and now Elliot Abrams as well, there's no anti-war stuff happening. It was all a facade. It's all a trick. And Donald Trump, on some level, he knows what he has to say to win elections and gain popularity. And on the other hand, he knows that he has to go along with the establishment behind the scenes, and he doesn't really care. He's just a malignant narcissist. And he's like, whatever. Does the CIA want to do this? Fine, let him do that. Do the generals want to do this? Fine, let him do that. He doesn't give a fuck. He got ever so slight pushback from the establishment when he was tweeting anti-war stuff, and he's like, okay, I agree with them. Let's keep the troops there. And by the way, none of us should be surprised by this because he did this on pharma too, and it was really telling. On the campaign trail, he kept hammering pharma companies and saying, we're going to allow the negotiation for better prices with Medicare, and we're going to make sure we get cheaper drugs. All it took was one meeting with pharma lobbyists. He came out of that meeting and he said, no, we're not going to do that because that would be unfair to the pharma companies. So all it took was a couple bullshit arguments from some overpaid lobbyists, and he was like, you know what, you guys make a lot of sense. Because our president is a dipshit. So, don't fall for the head fakes. He's not non-interventionist. If anything, he's doing the opposite. And you need to understand that he's a sleazy, slimy politician who contradicts himself. And in reality, he is fostering the continuation of the empire, not dismantling it.